This is Goku-san, DBZ, and today, of course, I'm getting ready to do the first of a two-part special, Top 50 Rock Hits. Now, this will be based on multiple things, like people's opinions on, obviously, Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on Tumblr, and also I looked to figure some also the outs of like some of the more popular songs among the artists on YouTube, looking at like song views and stuff of the videos or the songs in general to base which is the best songs, at least from YouTube standpoint, as well as looking at Billboard charts and looking at the songs, how well they did, how high they made on like the Hot 100 or on the top, charts, and how many weeks they stayed there. And anyways, obviously a lot of time and a lot of looking at statistics and things in order to put together this list. So keep that in mind. Now, today I'm going to first mention a list of some of the honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. Then I'll start, and this will be from ranks starting at number 50 up to number 26. And next week I'll start out with another list of honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut, and then obviously from number 25 to number 1. Okay, first here's the honorable mentions of some of the hits. Oh yeah, and also no more than 2 songs per artist on the list. That way everyone gets a more fair shot, if you will. Because otherwise certain artists would dominate the list, obviously, looking at Billboard and views on YouTube and everything, if you based it strictly something like that. So, trying to give all artists a little more fair shot. And this will be not just American artists, this will include European artists as well. So also keep that in mind. Now, of course, this is both rock and hard rock. And I've been working also in the future for a top 50 pop and a top 50 metal. Okay, here's the first list of honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. Creed, Inside Us All, from their Human Clay album, of course. A Perfect Circle, The Outsider. Linkin Park, Numb. Green Day, Brain Stew. John Lennon, Instant Karma. U2, Beautiful Day, and Skillet, Monster. And that's the first list of honorable mentions. Okay, coming in at number 50. Coming in at number 50 is Nickelback, How You Remind Me. And the only reason why this song even made the list, because anybody that knows me knows I'm not a big fan of Nickelback myself, but of course, personal opinion can't have anything to do with the choices on the list. Like, there's songs on the list I've not even heard. And therefore, I'm not a fan of the artists, but the reason why How You Remind Me made the list, obviously, at number 50, other than not being a big fan of the band, is that, one, the song, hugely successful on YouTube here, has like 135 million views. I did not realize Nickelback had that many views on any of their music videos. That's just insane. I guess it shows me there's a much bigger fan base audience on YouTube than I thought there was for Nickelback, so I'm proved wrong on some of my theories. Coming in at number 49, from former member of the Beatles, John Lennon, Working Class Hero. And yes, Working Class Hero, though John Lennon's music was considered probably more of a pop rock crossover or just soft rock, he still technically was under the definition of rock, though it was more like soft rock and stuff for the most part. And songs like, of course, Working Class Hero was a little softer, and like most John Lennon songs, obviously, it was a political song, because that's what John Lennon became pretty well known for over the years, was being known for his political activism. That sort of became a staple for John Lennon. He's definitely the most political of all the Beatles. Coming in at number 48, Green Day, American Idiot. And yes, of course, good song from a good album. And without a shadow of a doubt, obviously, American Idiot remains, as an album whole, their second best-selling album, with somewhere between 12 and 13 million copies sold of that album. That's pretty impressive for any artist. And though some old-school punk rock fans may not want to admit it, Green Day is by definition punk rock. And if you don't believe me, look at Billboard, because that's the category they're under, is punk rock. So, you can disagree with me all you want, but fact is, that's what the genre, and even Billy Joe Armstrong has said. He's a punk rocker. So if you don't like it, tough. They're the top-selling punk rock band globally. And there's nothing you can do about it. They've sold over 85 million records total thus far. So they'll, before their career's over, they're going to make it past the 100 million mark, which only a handful of artists have made over the years. Coming in at number 47 is the band, alternative rock band, Alter Bridge. I'm not going to do that narrator voice for this time. Alter Bridge, and their song from their second studio album, Blackbird. And from the album Blackbird. Very well done song. A little over 8 minutes long. Solid though. It's worth listening to the song 8 minutes. It's just insane how good the song is. Mark, the lead guitarist, of course, Alter Bridge, also former lead guitarist, obviously, of Creed, since it's just a different frontman in Alter Bridge. And that be Miles Kennedy, which has a really good voice. Perfect voice, especially for this song. It really showcases Miles Kennedy's vocal range and his voice, and really showcases Mark and his, obviously, guitar style. The guitar solo towards the middle of the song is just incredible. One of the best guitar solos, at least I can say personally, that I've heard. One of the best guitar solos in years that I've heard, at least since the new millennium. One of the best, period. And it's just an incredible song. You may say over 8 minutes, that's a pretty long song. Well, trust me, you're not going to care once you start listening to the song and you get into it. You're going to feel the raw power and emotion of the song. It just sucks you in. And you won't want to stop listening to the song until it's over. And then you're going to be like, I want to hear this again. And yes, it didn't make it super high up, like top 20, but it did make it pretty high up on the Billboard charts, and it stayed on there for a while. It was definitely one of Alter Bridge's first bigger hits, without a doubt. I mean, now Alter Bridge, of course, has become a very big name in alternative rock music, alternative to hard rock. Incredible band, with an incredible vocalist and incredible guitarist. I mean, it's a great combination in general, and I highly recommend you check out Blackbird. Trust me, you're going to be blown away at how good the song is. Coming in at number 46 was the second most successful band of the grunge rock genre. Of course, the biggest was obviously Nirvana, which, of course, sadly, Kurt Cobain passed away many years ago, over 20 years ago now, which is hard to believe. Which was good, but this band, Pearl Jam, is really good too. And they're still around. That's the thing. They're probably about the sole surviving, really, grunge rock band out of the grunge rock era that's actually still going. And, of course, their song that they come in 46th place with is called Even Flow. Now, if you may not know this song, it actually was very successful on the charts in the mid-late 90 time frame. Very successful, made it to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 charts. And fact is, in the late 90s or so, Pearl Jam had a few different pretty decent hits. But without a doubt, Even Flow is their most successful hit they've ever had. That song made it, if I remember correctly, from when I looked, it made it to the top 10 of the top 100. And it stayed on the top 100 charts for over 10 weeks. So, needless to say, it was pretty successful, and it remains part of their best-selling album, obviously. And honestly, if you've never heard Pearl Jam, I highly recommend you actually check out some of the music, even if you don't check out Even Flow, which is awesome. And by the way, the early music from the WCW Monday Nitro era of Chris Jericho was actually the instrumental and stuff of Even Flow. That was Chris Jericho's theme music, was Even Flow by Pearl Jam. Coming in at number 45 is a song that's become very famous in probably since the 90s into more recent years, though it was originally done in the 80s. But the version of the song that's more popular is the cover version of this song, which is done by the British band Love Split Love, which became a signature song for The Craft, also became the theme of Charmed, and also was in the first Cruel Intentions movie in the 90s. That being the song How Soon Is Now, but the one that actually makes the list is by a punk rock band of the 80s, the original version, which on chart success was still more successful, though. More people nowadays only know of Love Split Love's version of the song, but the original version was done by a British band of the 80s and still around, called The Smiths. Now, without a doubt, the Smiths has had over the years, in European Billboard charts, they've had more than 15 top hits on the European charts. How Soon Is Now made it to number 1 on the European Billboard charts, and made it to the top of the American Billboard charts as well. It was pretty much the most successful song the Smiths has ever had outside of Europe. Definitely in North America. It was definitely their most successful song. And obviously a lot of you know the song. The Love Split Love version, it's about 4 minutes. The original version stretches about 6.5 minutes. Because there's a little more instrumental and stuff played. And it has a much more eerie sound to it than the newer version by Love Split Love. I highly recommend you check out the original version of How Soon Is Now by The Smiths. And check out other music by The Smiths. They're a really good British band. I highly recommend their music. Coming in at number 44 is the band, first the band Creed, and their song, which is probably the staple song really of their career, and their most successful song on the charts from their second album, Human Clay. Though a lot of people would say, of course, that With Arms Wide Open, which is their second most successful song off that album. But this song was a humongous juggernaut hit. And it stayed on top of the Billboard charts for over 21 weeks. It remained on the top of the charts. And it made it to number 1 and held number 1 spot for something like 7 or 8 weeks. Now, only a handful of songs can do that, especially in alternative rock or hard rock. And that's their song Higher, which is definitely probably their most well-known song, I would say, if you ask most people who have heard Creed music. Probably the top 3 songs that most people have heard from Creed are probably Higher, With Arms Wide Open, and I would say the other one is probably either One Last Breath or My Sacrifice. But yes, Higher makes it to number 44. Number 43 is the hard rock band Papa Roach, and their song called, from their debut album, Infest, which is called Between Angels and Insects at number 43, which is a solid song overall. And it truly is a real hard rock song. That's one thing. I think a lot of people that like the first two albums didn't like that their music started sounding lyrically a little more emo, from their their third studio album into their fourth studio album. But their first and second one was good. Of course, their second album being Getting Away with Murder. Good album, but Between Angels and Insects is a really top-notch song. It's become a staple of their live shows, and I can say as one, I've seen Papa Roach live, and they put on a really good performance, and they really get the crowd involved. That's one thing of rock bands I've seen personally live in concert. Papa Roach was one of the best shows I've seen, and I really like the sound. They their first album, that song sounded a little cross between hard rock and rap music and stuff, which was big in the late 90s, early millennia, thanks to other bands such as, obviously, bands like Rage Against the Machine, bands like Limp Bizkit, and bands like Linkin Park and others are a reason why that was so huge at that time period. But it's a good song, and it's a very political song, saying that money is a lot of reason for problems and stuff in the world, which to an extent is very true. Coming at number 42 is Bon Jovi, and their huge successful song of the early millennia, which is still hugely successful and has over 100 million views on YouTube, the video, and it was top of the charts for a long time. And that being their song, It's My Life, which was a huge hit for, definitely probably their biggest hit of the new millennia on the Billboard charts. Though they've had multiple other top hits on the Billboard, this one was hugely successful and still really popular, and definitely one of Bon Jovi fans' probably favorite songs. Coming in at number 41 is by the awesome alternative rock band called A Perfect Circle, which of course the lead vocalist of A Perfect Circle is also the lead vocalist of the band Tool as well. And the song is called Weak and Powerless from their album 13th Step, which is an incredible album. All three of their albums are good, but 13th Step is such an amazing, solid album. And Weak and Powerless is an interesting story, really. Even like the frontman of the band, other members of the band have said, it's about struggles with addiction, and no, not just drug addiction. He said the song was meant to be interpreted having a addiction problem to many different things. It doesn't have to be drugs, but addiction problem, like for some people maybe to things like pornography, for other people addiction like things like coffee, or an addiction to music, obviously, or TV shows, movies of some sort or another. But it's meant to relate to a lot of people who have some sort of form of an addiction. And it's a very good song overall. The video is kind of weird and stuff, but the song is incredible. Of other great songs from the band, The Outsider, Gravity, they've done some really incredible songs. And sadly, they're a very underrated band, frankly. And anybody knows me knows I praise this band. And Weak and Powerless is one of the few songs they've had, sadly, that have actually managed to make it pretty good on the charts, but they've had very few. It's just one of their few successes on the Billboard charts. And I just wish they would have had more successes. But it's an incredible song. Coming in at number 40 is the band that many people know, AC/DC, and their signature song from the 70s, of course, from their original frontman, and that being Highway to Hell, coming at number 40, which is definitely was a very successful hard rock song of the 70s. And those some people today may not consider because they're not as rocky as some hard rock bands. Keep in mind, they're from the 70s. And their style, which may seem more normal rock today, was definitely hard rock for the 70s. So you have to keep that in mind. Hard rock in the 70s is more like normal rock now, and metal from the 70s is more like hard rock now. So you just have to keep these changes in the genres in mind over the years. Coming in at number 39 was a big success hit in the 80s. And that being the artist known as Robert Palmer and his hugely successful song, Simply Irresistible, which has become a staple. Even a country artist tried to do a complete polar opposite, like he did with like what looked like pale face like models and stuff in the background, play instruments and stuff. The country artist Shania Twain did her own twist with like guys similar like that in the background. She kind of ripped off Robert Palmer's video and just changed it around with female singer instead of male singer, and changed the hair stuff around, obviously. But yeah, she copied his style. And Robert Palmer's great. He's done some other really good songs as well. Coming in number 38 is a huge song from the 80s. It became very well known in the Rocky movie, and that being by the band Survivor, and the song called Eye of the Tiger, which is definitely a staple to 80s music, and was a huge, obviously, hit, and many people to this day, thanks to movies like Rocky, still know of Eye of the Tiger, which is a great song. Coming in at number 37 is definitely one of the more successful earlier female artists rock music, which became pretty well known in the 80s. And that being the female artist Blondie, with her hugely successful song, One Way or Another, which has definitely become a staple over the years of 80s songs. It's an incredible song. Blondie was a really good artist. She definitely was one of the early, I think, definitely one of the early women to really pave the way for a lot of female artists of the future in rock music. There's only a small handful of female artists that were hugely influential in the early days of rock. Artists like Blondie, artists like Pat Benatar, artists like, obviously, the duo or duet of, obviously, Heart, and a few others. But they definitely became signatures of early rock music for women, definitely of the 80s. And, as I said, incredible song. Coming at number 36 is from the glamour rock or hair metal band, of course, Whitesnake, and their hugely successful, very well-known song to this day called Here I Go Again. Come on. Virtually no one hasn't heard that song over the years. That's definitely their top most successful song, but the insane part is Whitesnake has sold over 100 million albums. Believe me, I looked this up. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, I like some of their songs, but I did not realize they were that successful. But if you look in America, they only had a few big hits other than Here I Go Again. In England, on the other hand, in their home country, they've had multiple top hits on the British charts. Coming in at number 35 is the band that has been around for decades. Very influential, and that being the band Pink Floyd at number 35 with their song Comfortably Numb, which is definitely one of their better well-known songs, and from their top album, which is one of the best-selling rock albums of all time. And they're definitely a very influential band, and there's no debate about that. No one's going to debate Pink Floyd. It's definitely one of the greats. Coming in at number 34 is the band Linkin Park, and their song from their first album, Hybrid Theory, which is the best-selling rock album of the new millennia. it has sold over 30 million copies of that album. Good album, but really? 30 million, the best-selling rock album of the new millennium? That's insane. Just saying. And the song they made it to 34th place with is In the End, which has definitely become a signature song in all their live performances, and as well as it's definitely a fan favorite, obviously. Because if you ask anybody who likes Linkin Park or likes old school Linkin Park or anything in their favorite song, trust me, most people are going to have In the End in their top 3 favorite songs. There's no doubt about that. Coming in at number 33 is the hair band Twisted Sister and their political song We're Not Gonna Take It, which sort of became a rebel song, obviously, of the 80s. Good song. Interesting band, to say the least, but yeah, it's definitely one of probably their 2 biggest hits they've ever produced. But over the years, commercially, it's definitely become their most well-known song. We're Not Gonna Take It, thanks to being in movies and TV shows over the years. Coming in at number 32 is from the band of the nice, more well-known The Cure and their song Disintegration, which is an incredible song which stretches over 8 minutes long. Another little bit more long song, but Disintegration from that album, of course, a little bit earlier, but The Cure is incredible. They were one of the big, favorites of, goth culture and stuff of the 90s. Like today, in the 2000s, obviously big bands in goth culture, bands like Evanescence or Him, and bands of that nature. But in the 90s, Evanescence existed, and when Him was just starting to get their start, The Cure was already on the scene, producing pretty good hits. And this is definitely one of their biggest hits without a shadow of a doubt. And made on the charts for quite a while, and it was even featured in the new Marvel Cinematic Universe movie Ant-Man, which is pretty cool. So it's nice that they got a head nod in a Marvel movie, of all things. I think that for trying to introduce a new generation of teenagers and young adults to The Cure. And I just hope more people check out their music and appreciate their talent and style. Coming in at number 31 is Aerosmith. And their definitely very well-known song, Walk This Way, which of course was a #1 hit in the 70s. Definitely one of probably their top 3 best well-known songs. And they've been very influential, and they've been around for decades now. 40 plus years they've been around. I believe actually they've been around 43, 44 years, so yeah, they've definitely been around longer than a lot of rock bands. Coming in at number 30 is by the band Queen. And of course, incredible band with an incredible, sadly, been gone for many years now, Freddie Mercury. Incredible voice, one that I think the better vocalists, definitely, and more distinctive voices in rock music. And they came in number 30 with their well-known song, We Are the Champions. Very motivational song. Coming in at number 29 is U2 and their song, Where the Streets Have No Name. This made it to the top of the Billboard charts. Maybe not as successful as some, but if you look at influential area, it was, and they actually filmed the video live when they were performing in downtown Los Angeles on the top of a building and stuff, and performed where people could hear the music in the street and everything. Cops tried to get them down and stuff, but it definitely became a staple This was definitely in the early days of YouTube, back before Bono gained the humongous ego he has nowadays, obviously. He's done a lot of good stuff, but the problem is he doesn't let you forget about it. And that's one of the things I think people don't like about YouTube. But in the early days, 80s and 90s, YouTube really was something special. Sadly, over the years, they've kind of gone downhill somewhat. They've become more of that category with bands like Nickelback and others. Sadly, over the years, though, they've done a lot of great music. Coming at number 28 is the great, probably, of course, obviously the most successful grunge band ever, and that being Nirvana. And at number 28, they come with their probably most well-known song, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Which, let's be honest, a lot of the lyrics we can't even understand at all. But without a doubt, it's great. I think one of the things involving Nirvana that annoys me personally is there's so many people I see, like teenagers and stuff, that wear Nirvana shirts. And I've mentioned to them, sad about Kurt Cobain, and they look at me strange and it's like, who's Kurt Cobain? And all I'm thinking is, seriously, you're wearing a Nirvana shirt and you don't even know who the hell Kurt Cobain is. You should not be allowed to wear that shirt unless you know who Kurt Cobain is. No, they're the trendies, they're the hipsters. And as I've said, I'm not a fan of hipsters. Don't wear a shirt of a band unless you actually know anything about the band. It's as simple as that. Coming in at number 27 is the very well-known hard rock band Godsmack. And without doubt, they're probably their biggest hit ever, which was their debut into New Age style combination of rock and New Age music, with their song Voodoo, which is still well-known and is probably still just about their most popular song to this day. Not only was it huge on the charts, a very interesting, very distinctive music video, and kind of creepy, on certain parts of it, but it's a very phenomenal, and Sully is really allowed to show his interesting vocals with that song, with eeriness of it all. But truly good song. And now the last one on the charts, of course, for this week's episode, number 26, by the band formerly known as the most dangerous band in the world, that being Guns N' Roses, and their song, which they did the music as sort of a joke and stuff, but it's become a staple definitely throughout the years, one of their most well-known songs, and that being Sweet Child O' Mine. And yes, Guns N' Roses, great band, and definitely one of their better songs. And it's interesting / considered a joke. I guess the joke ended up on him. It ended up becoming one of the most requested songs for Guns N' Roses over the years. Though, of course, Slash hasn't been with Guns N' Roses in quite a long time. That's because of the clashing between him and Axl Rose, obviously. But I'll cut this vlog. I hope you enjoyed the first part of the two-part special. And, of course, next week we'll be doing number 25 to number 1. And before that, of course, a list of special honorable mentions of songs that did not quite make the cut. Hope you like this. I'll see you next time here in YouTube land. And have a good upcoming week. Oh, yeah, and also, before I forget, of course, please like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. And also, you can follow me at twitter.com/GokuSunDBZ.